So in Nigeria, if you wanted to do your bachelor's, you had to go back to the university and start from 200 level and do it for another 4 years. But when I came, I did my bachelor's for just 1 year. So that was actually good.
You saved a lot of time.
But generally, from my experience, I would say the responsibility in the US for nurses is more, in my experience, than in Nigeria. Because I have a YouTube channel now where I share my experiences and teach other people who are trying to relocate from Nigeria or from any part of the world to the US as a nurse.
What is up, guys? Jason here. Welcome back to the channel and our series Nurses to Riches, The Road to Fire. Today, we're talking with a nurse who relocated from Nigeria to the US in 2021. She started her nursing career in Nigeria, where nurses earn an average of 68 US dollars a month. But after moving to the US, she quickly went from making $25 an hour as an extern to $43 an hour as a psych crisis nurse. She is going to show every international nurse the opportunities available for nurses in the US. And she's here to share the differences between being a nurse in Nigeria and being one in the US. So tell us what your name is and a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Success. I'm a Nigerian. I relocated to the US about 3 years ago. That was 2021 June precisely. Currently, I'm a psych nurse, but I was formerly an ER nurse, transitioned to psych.
Wow. Why would you make that transition? Did you always want to be a psych nurse, or you felt like maybe you just couldn't get a position in any other specialty other than psych?
No, I actually wanted to be a psych nurse because before I got my license in the US, I was a BHT for a while. So I kind of got a hang of it. And I just, future purpose, like I want to be a psych MP. And that's why I moved. So I went to the ER to get like my medical experience and get a hang of the medical system in the US before transitioning to psych.
So you said VAT. What is that? VHT?
BHT, behavioral health tech. That's like
Oh,
an assistant in psych.
got it. And you said you moved here to the US in 2021. Why did you move to the US?
It was family. I moved with my parents, siblings, and everyone. Like it was just a huge relocation. So we moved with the permanent residence green card route, and we just came settled here and just started our life again. But fortunately for me, I was already a nurse back in Nigeria. I'd completed my education. I worked for about a year and a half and then came. And it took me about a year to be able to do the licensing process and get the NCLEX exam done and get the license here before I started working. So while I was doing all that, I had to, do other things. I was a BHT, I did caregiving, I was a rehabilitation tech for autistic kids. I did a couple of things before getting my license.
So are both your parents and your siblings, everybody's here?
Yes, everyone's here.
How many siblings do you have?
I have one, a younger brother, so we're just two.
And how old are you?
25.
Wow. Okay. How long is schooling over there? Did you go for your bachelor's or an associate's? How does it work?
So it's just like the US. So we have the School of Nursing and then we have the bachelor's route, but it's a little bit different the years of schooling. So we don't call it associate degree, although now they are trying to make it an associate degree. But when I went to school, it was just registered nurse diploma I came out with. So, but it's equivalent to US associate degree when I did my credential evaluation. So I schooled for 3 years, graduated in 2019, and then that was it. So in Nigeria, if you wanted to do your bachelor's, you had to go back to the university and start from 200 level and do it for another 4 years. But when I came, I did my bachelor's for just 1 year. So that was actually good than doing it back home.
You saved a lot of time.
Yep, yeah, and money too.
Okay, so now I want you to describe what it's like to work in Nigeria versus working here in the United States.
Okay, so it's different. So in Nigeria, every hospital, everywhere you work, every state kind of like regulates what you're allowed and what you're not allowed to do. So I'm going to talk from my personal experience and try not to generalize as much as possible. But the first hospital I worked in was like a community health center. So nurses pretty much did everything, and there was no doctor on Sunday, so we would still do everything as much as diagnosing and prescribing medications. We would suture wounds. We did pretty much everything. But then I moved to the bigger city and I worked in a bigger hospital where the roles of nurses were so much reduced. The only thing we did were just like basic nursing stuff, pass medications, bed batting, because there was no CNA. So we did all the CNA stuff as well as giving medications, IV, IM, and all that. So it just really depends on the hospital you work in. But generally, from my experience, I would say the responsibility in the US for nurses is more, in my experience, than in Nigeria. But I learned more hands on in Nigeria because you have to learn to improvise most times when equipment are not available or it's not working properly or stuff like that. So you kind of learn more how to improvise as a nurse in Nigeria. But here, the responsibility is more in the sense that you're faced with all this. Should I say threats or realities of, oh, there could be a lawsuit. You have to do what you have to do, right? You have to like the patient communicate with you first before the doctors. Like, there's the correct hierarchy here than in Nigeria. So I'd say it's more challenging here.
Is it? Okay, now, oh, what state are you working in?
Arizona currently.
Okay. And is that where your family decided to move to because that was their plan from the beginning, or because they felt like that was one of the easiest places to move to?
So my auntie is here.
Mhm.
She's the one that actually like filed for us to come here. So we just came here. Like we've not been to any other state. We just relocated from Nigeria straight to Arizona.
Okay. All right. Now, you said that it seems like it's a little bit more challenging here in the US. What about when it comes to pay? I know there's a huge difference, right? But if you factor in the cost of living, is it more beneficial to live in the United States versus Nigeria?
Yes, a
Mm.
hundred times. Yeah.
Okay. Describe to me your life in Nigeria as a nurse, working as a nurse, and how you were living over there. What were the things you were able to do and the things you were not able to do with the income that you were making over there?
Okay, so I'll just talk about the country generally as well first. In the US, you can achieve a lot with, like you have your credit card, you could finance stuff, which could actually increase your way of life because the income will still come. So you're able to finance some things like car, like house, and you're comfortable and you have your basic utilities. Everything that's basic here was kind of luxury in Nigeria. So for example, houses, there's like in units, washer, dryer, you have your dishwasher, you have your car, you are able to like get a mortgage. Those things are not really available. Everything is on cash.
Mm.
So for you to buy a car, you have to have all the cash. To buy a house, you have to have all the cash. And with the nursing salary, it's going to take you years and years to save up to the amount of money you need to buy a house or a car or even to have a laundry in your home or stuff like that. Like those things were luxury. So the salary based off what I was earning, I was comfortable enough to rent an apartment and just live a normal basic life. But compared to the US, the quality of life I live here is definitely way better than in Nigeria.
What about other things? Because I know personally, I grew up, well, I was born in the Dominican Republic, but I grew up in New York City. And a lot of people that I know who came from other countries, they feel like in the US, there's like a lack of community. Like it feels like sometimes you feel like you're isolated, like you're by yourself. Did you feel that first moving here?
Um, that's the truth, but I did not because I had my family.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just go to work, come back, I have my family at home. I have cousins here. I have lots of extended family, so I didn't really feel that. But I get that part of community. Like in Nigeria, you definitely know all your neighbors, right? So you're walking on the street, someone will tell you when something is wrong with your dress or like, your car or something. So yeah, everyone was kind of friendly and free with each other. But here, like, there's a culture of, oh, I gotta mind my business because I don't know if this person, like, what's going on in the person's mind. And, like, everyone just really lives in isolation here. And I think Arizona is worse. If someone in New York could say that, then I wonder what we're gonna say in Arizona because I don't even know who lives beside my house right now. Like, no.
Now, what about the weather, the climate? Do you prefer the climate in Nigeria or do you prefer it in Arizona?
Arizona is too hot. It's hotter than Nigeria. So yeah, I prefer Nigeria. The
Yeah.
climate, yeah, but Nigeria was humid, so you would sweat, which is nasty. But Arizona is dry, so that I think that's a good thing. You're really not gonna sweat that much, but you just cannot be outside, which is sad. So
Yeah, we live in Sacramento, so the temperatures here can be close to Arizona. Not, if you're thinking about like Phoenix, Arizona, where the temperatures often go to like 110, we may reach maybe like 105. So we're close to there. Like average is like, let's say, over 100. I think this year we got close to like 30 days of 100-degree temperatures and over 100 days of 90-degree temperatures. So it's very similar to what it's like over there. I'm guessing it's probably hotter more days of the year in Arizona than it is
it
here.
is, yeah.
So I can't even imagine how hot it must feel every single day out there.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I do not like the heat that much. Not to that extent. I love the heat, don't get me wrong, but not 100-degree temperatures, you know?
It's bad. It's really bad. Like you don't even know what to wear. If you're fully covered, you're hot. If you wear something small, the sun is just killing your body. Like it's bad. But
Yeah.
I mean, we get like 1 or 2 good months in a year where you could take a run or a stroll or something. So
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason why Monica and I were moving back to New York. Right now in Sacramento, literally, it's October and we're still at 101 degrees right now.
same here.
Meanwhile, in New York, it's like mid 70s, and
New York is cold though. I've been to New York and
yeah.
it was really cold. Like I didn't pack well for it. I was shivering.
What time of the year did you go?
May.
Yeah, you're right. So it can't, well, it depends. If you're coming from a very tropical country and you go to New York in May, you're gonna think it's freezing. Yeah,
I mean, I'm
but
coming from Arizona. It was still very hot in May. So I was I
well,
think I packed only one jacket and it was not enough.
well,
Yeah.
that's because it's like 90 degrees in Arizona in May.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get it. It's just we missed having four seasons of the year. Like we like it when it snows. And don't get me wrong, I hate the cold when it's like really, really cold, but I like seeing the snow. Right. Like I like and so the reason we moved here to California is because we go snowboarding in the winter season. And
Mhm.
now we're doing skiing. But when we go to New York City, it's so cold sometimes because we go like upstate and by Pennsylvania, or we'll go towards like Vermont area to go skiing or snowboarding. And when we were doing that before we moved to California, it's like you're snowboarding on ice. Like literally, it's ice that you're snowboarding on. But here in California, since the snow is so soft, and the temperature is perfect for that snow, it's very fluffy compared to the East Coast.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's one thing we're gonna miss a lot when we move back to New York. But we have all our family in New York. That's part of the reason why we're moving
Yeah.
back. Yeah. So for you to have your family with you, I can see why you actually do enjoy it enough to not want to leave right away.
Yes. Yes. And I just got married, so it only
Oh,
makes
wow,
sense. Yeah.
girl. Okay, we'll get into that. But let's talk about how you came to Arizona from Nigeria. And you said that you had to go back to school to get your bachelor's here, right? And you
Yes.
got like an accelerated bachelor's program basically because you within a year you were able to get your bachelor's. Now, were
Yes.
you working during that time?
I was. So after I accredited my credential from Nigeria, it was equivalent to an associate degree in nursing, right? And I was able to take the NCLEX and I started working as a nurse in the ER.
Mm,
So while I was working, then I enrolled in the RN to BSN, just like you guys would do in the US. It was the same process. I attended a post university.
mhm.
I think they're merged now with American Sentinel School of Nursing, something like that. So that was what I attended. I did the same path, self paced. So I kind of rushed it up in a year. Maybe it should have been 14 or 16 months if I took it according to the traditional pathway. But I was taking like 5 courses a semester, three, two. I was just rushing everything. But although I had to take 7 general education courses that were not accredited, because I did everything in Nigeria, but then I think 7 gen eds were missing. So I had to retake those here.
Mhm.
And that was the part that was actually stressful because I had to source it out with like from different online sources. I did with Sophia courses, Straight Line, and I think the school had like they offered me like two gen eds that I was able to take as well.
So, how did you find this information out? Did you just Google everything and say, okay, what do I have to do next?
Yes, I mean YouTube. YouTube is there, and
Mhm.
I googled everything. And also this school, I wanted to attend all this, Capella, WGU, because I know it was fast. Like I just really wanted something fast. But this school, they came to my workplace to advertise. They gave like a 20% off, and I was contemplating between CRNA and Psych MP. Then when before I made the decision, so, and I knew that Capella would you would have a problem going CRNA school if you like finish from Capella or WGU. I don't know how true it is, but like that was what I was seeing online. So I wanted a school that was more traditional. So that's why I chose the post university. They almost gave me a hard time like starting because they were like, "Oh, you're international. You have to take the IELTS. You have to do this," and I'm like. I've been in the US for 2 years. Like I speak English. I've taken the IELTS before. Like I'm not international. I have the green card. So I literally had to, talk my way through before I was given the admission. But it wasn't straightforward, to be honest.
And the IELTS is what it's called, right? What is that exactly for people who don't know?
Oh, it's an English exam. Usually, if you're coming freshly from Nigeria, because I have a YouTube channel now where I share my experiences and teach other people who are trying to relocate from Nigeria or from any part of the world to the US as a nurse. It's basically the same process. So, that's an exam you have to write while applying for the visa just to prove your English language.
Mm.
It's pretty much compulsory for countries that are not on the map as English speaking countries.
Now, when you started, oh, you know what? Let me ask you about your degree. So, when you got your bachelor's, how much was the cost of the entire thing?
It was roughly 8,800.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. And then I got a scholarship of 3,500.
So, the 8,000 is after the scholarship or before?
No, before the scholarship.
Wow. So, basically, you paid $5,000 for the tuition.
Yep.
What kind of scholarship did you apply for, and how did you find out about it?
I found it on Instagram. It's United Healthcare Scholarship. So you just need to apply and then write an essay on why you think you are, like what addition you have to healthcare diversity. So basically, I just, made my essay based on the fact that I'm black, I'm foreign, and I'm trying to add to the nursing profession in the US. And that was it. So I think they award certain number every year. And if you apply once, you cannot apply again. But it's just Google United Healthcare Scholarship.
So, did you have to write an essay for it?
Yes, I read an
And how
essay.
long was it?
I can't remember, but I think it was about 500 words or something.
Oh, okay, that's not that long.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you wrote on the essay if it's not too personal?
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wrote about the fact that I'm black and I'm foreign. So basically, the essay was just what's going to be your impact on healthcare diversity. So I just talked about that and how I want to like make an impact in the smaller communities in the US with like more foreign or black populations to like improve their healthcare with my interest in mental health and community outreaches and stuff like that. Yeah, that was what I narrowed my essay on. And then the fact that I needed to have my bachelor's degree to be able to do that. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Wow, I love that. And how long did it take for you to get word from them that you got approved, and you were one of the winners in the scholarship?
It took a while. If I can remember the dates correctly, I think I did the application in February. They told me in May, and then I think I started school August, something like that.
Mm.
I might be wrong, but I think May was when they told me, yeah, that I got it. So maybe about 2, 3 months.
And did they give you a check, or did they just pay for the part of the tuition? How did that work?
They sent it directly to the school. They have to send it to the school. That's what they said. So you have to be in the process of admission or already in school before you apply for that scholarship.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you finished your degree, but you said, what was the job situation like? When did you start working, and where did you start working?
Okay, so I had a little issue in Arizona because by the time I wrote the NCLEX September 2 years ago. They told me that I'd been out of school for over 2 years. So I had to take a 16 weeks refresher course in a community college here. So this does not apply to all states, it's mostly Arizona and a few other states. So I had to take that course and I would not be able to work until I was done with that course. So I was already tired of doing menial jobs, and I felt like I had my NCLEX already in September 2 years ago. So the course was supposed to start January or August of every year. So now I had to wait to the following year, January, to start the course. So immediately I started the course, I was just looking on LinkedIn and then I saw a nurse externship. And I just applied to one of the teaching hospitals here as a nurse extern and used the fact that I was going to school to get the job, which was kind of rare because every other person I told to do the same thing have been getting rejected. So I don't know if it's a thing anymore. But by God's grace, I was taken. So I started as a nurse extern in the ER. I did that for 5 months before I got my license and then transitioned into an RN. So I basically started working 5 months before, sorry, 4 months before I got the actual license, if that makes sense.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
People don't realize the power of LinkedIn. Like I've interviewed so many
Yes.
nurses and so many have like positive things to say about the way they were able to get a job through LinkedIn, like reaching out or networking with people on LinkedIn. Or maybe some employers even found their resume or their profile on LinkedIn and reached out to them. There's one nurse that ended up getting a job at Tesla because of a
Oh,
post he saw
wow.
on LinkedIn. So he worked as a triage nurse or something for Tesla.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like the dream job.
I know. Yeah, yeah. He was making good money too. I think it was like over $100 an hour or something like that. He said it
Oh,
was
I think
very
I watched his
comparable to the job
interview
he
on
was.
your.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that then. What was your starting salary when you started working there?
So as an extern, it was 25 an hour,
Hmm.
and then as an RN, it was 33 an hour.
Okay. And do you remember roughly like how much you were bringing in every 2 weeks or every week?
So as an RN, I think after taxes, it was roughly 4,000 every month.
Or-
After taxes, insurance, 401k, everything. Yeah.
Okay. And were you still living with your parents at this time?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's awesome. You got to save all this money.
We had to share the bill because we came together, so it wasn't like I was just leaving. So we had to share everything.
See, that's how you know you're Nigerian, because
Yeah,
and you know this is how it is in other cultures. It's like you're a community, right? You have to help each other out. You know, your parents brought you into this world, and you have to give them something back, right? Like
of
that's just
course. Yeah.
okay. So you're living with your. Are you still living with your parents?
No, I just got married.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now let's walk through that. Okay, so you're working as a nurse now. Did you meet your partner there in your job?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no.
How did you meet your partner?
On Instagram.
What? You know, that's not too far from the way that I met Monica. So Monica and I we met
Really?
on a website. This was back in like 2005. We met online.
Wow.
Okay, so how did he reach out to you on Instagram or did you reach out to him?
Of course he did. He reached out. I'm Nigerian. I'm not going
Okay, does he work in the field?
He works in healthcare, but he started as a IT help desk for a health facility.
I see.
But now he's a compliance associate, so he's like back in the office and just compliance.
I see. And does he live in Arizona as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So it was easy, yeah. And
Yeah.
I kind of knew his parents, so it wasn't a like far relationship, like I didn't know him at all. I knew his parents, but I didn't know him, so it was easy to get to know him at that point.
I see. So now, what are you doing? You said you're working as a psych nurse. You were working in the ER. How did you transition into psych nursing?
I just applied and then based off my experience as a BHT, like I said before. So I was a behavioral health tech, which was like your CNAs on psych units. So that's what they call them. So that was how it was easy for me to get the job. So now I work psych crisis, which is like ER but psych. So you know how in the ER you have like psych units.
Yeah.
So I work like psych crisis now.
So is that just an extension of the ER that you were already working in?
No, it's a whole different facility. This one is purely psych. So patients come in psychosis, patients that the police picked up on the road, they bring them in, homeless patients, substance and drug abuse, patients who are intoxicated, new onset psychosis, like any psych crisis, they bring them there, we stabilize them and ship them out to inpatient.
Hmm. And how would you compare working in the ER versus working as a psych nurse? Because it's a huge difference.
It is, yeah. So I would say physically, I was more tired in the ER than I am here. Because here, the BHTs, bless their soul, they do pretty much all the physical work. So we, the nurses, are like the head of the shifts, like the shift managers, if that makes sense. Although we have like a non-nursing administrator, but everything still has to go through our table, get approved, and then we there's no provider at night, so we have to call the provider on the phone. There's on call, there are tele providers, so that's how we communicate with them. So basically we do the nursing assessment intake when a patient comes in, ask all the questions. That's if they come in ANO times four enough to ask questions, answer questions. If not, then we just do assessments based off what we're seeing, and depending on their acuity, if they need injection at that moment to stabilize them, we do it. Seclusion and restraint, verbal de-escalation, and all that good stuff. And then once that's done, then we pass out like routine medications, blood draw in the mornings. If they need to be sent out, we have to do a TB test before they are sent out. And then the shift is mostly calling report for when a patient wants to go out, receiving report, receiving new patients, admission. Is I'm busy all through the night, but not physically busy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So this is because you said this is a completely separate facility. Is it in a hospital or is it just psychiatric facility?
It's just a psychiatric facility. Yeah.
Okay, because the way that I know it here, at least in where I'm at in Sacramento, and how I knew it back in New York, is that usually these patients that have mental health problems and they're acute mental health problems, they come to the ER first because they're brought in either by ambulance or somebody calls 911 and says, this patient is acting like a maniac, please do something about it. They'll bring them to the ER. We stabilize them enough to then transfer them to an outside facility or transfer them to an inpatient psych unit within the hospital. So, but you're saying maybe the case that you have a patient who's in crisis who just goes straight to you. And I've never really seen
So
anything like that.
I think Arizona have more mental health cases than most other states, if I'm not mistaken. Because when I was in the ER, we also received patients like we get calls, suicide attempts, this, that, and stuff like that. But until I started working here, before I knew that this was actually the right place to bring them to, and not the ER. So I think generally in Phoenix, we have like two major psych crises that you take patients to when they have problem. So I think people would take them to the ER if it's closer, like the cops would take them to the ER if the ER is closer than our facility, or if they just don't know.
Hmm.
So, but we're the right place to come to first after I have done the assessment and given all the medications and we've done everything and we think it's more medical than psych, then we send them to the ER.
Mm. I guess it kind of you can make the comparison with someone who's having a stroke and you
Yeah,
have EMS who picks up the patient in their home and then has to determine which location to send them to. They're going to try to send that patient to a certified stroke facility as opposed to someone who's never really specialized, a facility that doesn't specialize in strokes, right? So that's kind of like what you're saying. If someone's having a mental health crisis, it's better to just send them to a facility that specifically deals with these type of patients.
true.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now what is your day to day like besides, the patient care side of it? Because in the ER, what were your shifts like? Like how many days a week were you working? How many hours a day were you working versus now?
In the ER, I worked 3 days a week, which is basically the US standard. It was self schedule. So, and you had to do one weekend or the other, like 2 weekends in a month, right? But here it's just specific schedule. So I work only Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, all through the year. I don't do weekends. I can only do any other day I choose except I pick up. So it's also 3 days, 36 hours, and you're entitled to at least 1 hour break here. So 15 minutes first, 15 minutes second, and then 30 minutes. But in the ER, I didn't take no breaks at all.
Mm. Man, see, this is one thing why I always tell nurses just move to California. We actually
I
take breaks.
know you always say that. Yeah. They
Oh,
would say, they'll be like, oh, you have to take your break, take your break, take. But how? There's no resource nurse, there's no float nurse. How do I leave five patients and go take a break?
I'll tell you
How?
how. I'll tell you how. You tell your coworker, I'm gonna go on break, watch my patients. That's how.
It's
When
the
I worked in New York,
ER.
the nurses didn't care. After a while, they're like, listen, you guys don't care about us, the nurses, then we're not gonna care about administration. So if I want to take a break, I'm gonna have my coworker watch 17 of my patients while they watch their 17 patients, and I'm gonna go on my break. We did it
We
anyway.
tried to do that, but we just couldn't do it to each other because the turnover rate was high. It was a level one trauma hospital, so the turnover rate was high all night. Like it wasn't possible. It just wasn't possible.
So, and how long have you been working there now?
The psych,
Yeah.
9 months now.
Okay. And in terms of your level of satisfaction, how would you rate this compared to the ER?
I'm satisfied here more.
You see, I
So
just made a video. Okay, I just made a video talking about why ER nursing is the worst specialty to get into, and
really,
there's I believe, in my opinion, because I've compared it to like several other specialties that nurses can get into. Like if you work PACU, if you work ICU, if you work med surge, if you work in any procedural unit, if you work in a clinic, if you work as a school nurse, like all of those are lower stress than working in the ER. In the ER, it's just nonstop. You know, your head is constantly thinking about things.
yes.
No, nonstop, right? Like Monica, she works in a tele floor, and I used to work on a tele floor. I have friends who work med surge. I have friends who work in the ICU, and they actually get to sit down at least, even if it's for like 20, 30 minutes, to talk to
Mhm.
each other, to chart.
Mhm.
It's hard to get that in the ER. It,
I don't even know if I knew people's names. That was how busy it
exactly.
was.
And we're hated on by every department. Like everyone hates us, you know,
Yes.
because nobody wants to receive a patient and we're the ones
Yeah.
sending the patient. And then we can't say no to the patients that come through our doors. We have to constantly keep seeing them, right? So it's extremely stressful. And like you said, on your body, it's a little bit easier now that you're not working as an ER nurse because there's a lot of physical labor involved as an ER nurse too. And you're constantly running around.
I hated moving the gurney. That was the part I was like, why? Why? I would move a 500 pounds patient. Like you have to do it alone because they're always low, short staffed.
Yeah.
Like that was the hardest, like not the hardest part, but like that was the part I hated the most. Like, why do I have to move the gurney every time to MRI, to CT scan, to the fifth floor, to the sixth floor? Like, why?
Yeah. So, what is the pay like if you compare your pay from your previous job as an ER nurse to now working as a psych crisis nurse, what is the difference?
$10 more.
Oh, $10 more. Wow. Okay, so you were getting paid, you said like 33 an hour before?
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you're making 43 an hour?
Hmm.
That's pretty decent. Yeah, that's not bad. Because usually in many places, the psych nurses have a lower rate than the ER nurses or the ICU nurses or the acute care nurses. And is it because of the facility that you work in that they just pay a higher rate, or is it because psych nurses in general in that area get paid more?
I think in general, Arizona psych nurses get paid more.
That means you guys are really dealing with a high level of psych patients, mental health patients,
Yeah.
right?
And we have a high turnover rate for staff too. Like nobody likes it. Nobody wants to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe inpatients, yeah, like the patients are a little bit more stabilized, but psych crisis, that's like ER psych. Like nobody wants to do it. So
Yeah. I have friends who live in New York City or other parts of the country. Even like some people who are in we started a coaching program this year, but a few of them actually, they work in psych and they're having a hard time getting a job out here in Northern California. Well, specifically Kaiser. Kaiser doesn't have, except for like one facility, does not have any psych inpatient units. So we ship all of our patients that are dealing with mental health issues to other facilities, which is
okay.
nuts in my opinion. Like, how is it that you're this large institution and you can't even provide mental health care to the mental health population, this population? But there are other hospitals like Sutter Health and Dignity Health and many other hospitals that do have inpatient psych facilities, but the pay is not as high for them, for those psych nurses, as it is for the inpatient care nurse.
Mm.
And that's why I'm like surprised to see that at least in Arizona you guys get paid higher rate than those nurses who work in the inpatient unit.
I think it's Arizona, to be honest, because I also have a friend in New Jersey who also complained of the same thing. I think Arizona just have more mental, I don't know if to say more mental patients, or like they put more money into mental health than floor nursing
Yeah.
inpatient. And definitely the 33 was because I was just starting. I believe every year it was supposed to grow, and if I had more experience, maybe it would have been more than that. But comparing the same experience, like this started me at 33 and this started me at this, so
But did they take your experience in Nigeria into account when they gave you that starting salary?
I don't think so.
Uh,
I don't think so because I did put it in my CV, but I think the mistake I made was I added those other jobs I mentioned I did during the like 1 year 6 months period I was trying to take the NCLEX into my resume. So while you're looking at it as a recruiter, you're definitely going to see those first before you turn the back of the resume and then see them. So I think so now I try to like redo my resume and take out those stuff and add my Nigerian experience. But I always try to tell myself during the interview, but then I don't know if it's too late. They just tell me, "Oh, no, it's not US experience, so it doesn't really count." So
I
it
see.
didn't count at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every facility is going to be different. They view outside or international experience differently from facility to facility. And okay, so you said that you've been there now for 9 months or so.
Yes, yes.
You make $43 an hour. You work 36 hours a week.
Yes.
Okay, so what do your expenses look like at the very least? Like, is your cost of living a lot more now because you're living outside of your family's house?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Because
Okay.
now we're two, so it's just I and my husband, and we share the bills. But in my family, I had both my parents and myself, so it was like the bills against three people. So now it's like the bills against two people.
And are you guys planning to have any kids?
Yes,
Okay. How many kids do you want?
maybe two or three.
That's funny because like Monica and I, for a long time, we only had our one daughter, and we're like, we don't want any more kids. This is enough. This is too much for us.
Really?
Yeah. And now we have a 3.5-year-old son, and we have our daughter who's 18. So like this huge gap in between.
Gap, yeah.
But
But I mean, you took the time to like recuperate and
yeah.
plan again. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, as you age, you just really mature. So I think honestly, it's a little bit easier for us now raising our son because, like, when he throws a tantrum, we know he's just a kid. We're not gonna overreact. When we were younger, we overreacted. So that's the thing. Like when you have a child, the first child, I feel like is like, man, you're just really you don't know what you're doing at all, and you're kind of learning as you go. But then as they grow older, and if you have another one, you're like, okay, I've learned what to do already. I'm not gonna do that, or this is the way I'm gonna approach it next time. So it becomes a little bit easier. You know.
Hmm.
Plus, when you're in a better financial position, it is so much easier raising children.
Yes, you can afford childcare and the nanny and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about your social media stuff because you said that you have a YouTube channel where you started like trying to show people what it's like to move from an international country like Nigeria to the United States. Like, why did you decide to start that channel in the first place?
Because when I was doing mine, I didn't think there was much information online. There
Mm,
was only one video that helped me, and that was like 4 years ago at the time I was doing my process. Definitely a lot of things have changed, and that person just stopped the YouTube channel. So there was no update or anything. So there was really lack of information. There was a lot of information for UK because there was a lot of migration from African countries all over the world to the UK, but the US is just kind of discreet. The process is definitely more expensive. It takes a longer time, but pretty much I know a lot of people want to move here at last because nursing here is much better than it is maybe anywhere else in the world. So
mm,
that was why I decided to share the information to make it easy for people to access.
mm. Now, do you get asked questions in the comments and just make videos out of those questions? Because that's typically sometimes I'm like, okay, these people are giving me a lot of content in these comments. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna make a video about it.
Yeah, that's why I do that. That's why
Mm.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and people don't realize that it's a lot of work to make these videos on YouTube. They think it's super easy, like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna point the camera at myself and start talking, and then it's gonna be a successful video. When they don't realize how much work is required in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a few more questions about like your experience in terms of like the crime rate, because a lot of people ask, is the United States really as dangerous as they show on TV? Like, how would you like? portray the United States now that you live here?
I live in Arizona. I'll talk about that.
Okay.
To be honest, it's not the way it's on the TV at all. I think I also made a video about the crime rate because I also had a lot of people reach out to me. Oh, I want to move to the US, but the gunshot violence. I'm like, if you want to move, just move. Like, no one is pointing a gun to your face while you're walking on the street. Like I know stuff happen here and there, like gunshots in schools and all that, but it doesn't happen every day, I believe. And I mean, in the same school, it doesn't happen in the same school every day. It's pretty much random. So far in Arizona, I live in the suburb, so most of the crime may happen in downtown Phoenix, and I only see those on the news. But also, there's crime everywhere. There's crime in Nigeria. There's crime everywhere. So it just seems pretty much normal to me.
Mm,
The only difference is the fact that I mean everyone is allowed to have a gun here, which makes it kind of scary. um the shocks were like the road rage. I saw a lot of that in the ER where like I didn't even know the meaning of that until I came here. Like where people are just driving and get themselves into a car race and just bring out a gun and shoot each other. Like that was weird. So I saw all of that in the ER and that was pretty scary. But I've been here 3 years now and I haven't even heard a gunshot.
mm.
So
Yeah, and when you talked about how it's mostly in downtown Phoenix, I think that just goes for all major cities in the US, really. Like you're going to see most of the crime happening in those major cities, like in the downtown areas, in the midtown areas. And it's the same thing here in Sacramento. So Sacramento is basically like the larger city here in this area where we all live. And then around it, you have like suburbs, like other suburban areas, which are Roseville and Elk Grove and Rockland, all these other places that are so much safer where you're going to rarely see any crime happening. But if you want to live in a city like Sacramento, then you're going to experience some of the crime. You're going to witness some of it. Like we've been living here now for going on 7 years, and we've gotten our car broken into twice since we've been here. Yeah.
wow.
We even had one point we parked our car right outside of our garage, closed the garage door because sometimes we like just park it out there. When my mom was living here, we had two cars in the garage, so we'd park another car, like our third car, outside of the garage. I
Yeah.
forgot that I had the garage door opener on the with the sun visor, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, so I went to work that day because I used to work like really late at night. I got home, I think it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went to sleep. And then when I woke up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, I saw that someone attempted to open the garage door at like 5 a.m. And then by 5:02, 5:03, there was a failed attempt to close the garage door. So I'm like, wait a minute, like nobody left the house, nobody
What?
came in the house. What's going on? So when I went down to the garage, I saw that the garage door was open and one of our bicycles was missing. And then I looked at the car, our car that was parked outside of the garage. The window was like shattered. Someone had broken into the car, stolen the garage door opener, opened the garage, got into the garage, stole one of our bicycles, and ran away. And it's a homeless person, obviously. Like we have so many homeless people out here, and they all have like 20 bikes. One homeless person, you'll see them with like 20 bikes. Like, why do they need so many bicycles?
And load, yeah. Oh my god,
Yeah,
yeah. So
but
just try
then
not to live in areas that they are
yeah.
crowded, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's weird because when we lived in New York, we didn't experience that much crime, and I think it's because there's so many police officers everywhere in New York. Here, I think the budget for the police department, don't quote me on it because I looked at it a while ago. I think it's like 300 million. Let me see. So Sacramento police budget, let's see. So their budget is 228 million here, right? But in New York City, they allocate 10.8 billion dollars, right? So you have
Wow.
220 million here in Sacramento versus 11 almost 11 billion dollars in New York City.
I'm curious. Let me see Arizona zone.
Yeah. So let's see. I can look this up. So in Arizona, oh no, Phoenix, Arizona. So Phoenix, Arizona, it says here that it's $981 million.
Oh, so that's even more than Sacramento.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm guessing it's probably it also depends on the size of the city, right?
Yeah.
believe obviously like Phoenix is larger than Sacramento, so you're gonna need more police presence over there than you need in Sacramento. But still, like 220 million versus 11
That's
billion,
small.
that's a
Yeah.
huge difference. So, what are your plans going forward now? Right, you're working as a psych nurse. Do you ever want to go back and get your psych NP?
Yes, so that's my next plan. I'm just still researching for a good school and how long it's going to take me. And with all this DNP and MSN thing that's going on, like I'm just trying to make my decision correctly. But hopefully I should start next year.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that video of me interviewing Iman. She is a psych nurse and she made like $600,000 last year. I mean, she's a psych nurse practitioner. She made $600,000 last year.
I'm going to go watch the video.
Oh my gosh. She is so she's also from New York. So she made $600,000 because she was working like her own private practice and she was billing patients on her own, seeing them on her own. And she used a large portion of that money plus the income that her husband makes to buy Section 8 housing. So that's what she's doing now. She's buying homes and property, real estate, so that she can make income from there, like passive income from those real estate investments. But
I've been
she's
making research on that thing. Like I hope to venture into it soon. I've been making research on real estate, Airbnb, and that's why I'm always stuck on your channel because you bring a lot of good people that talk about those things. I really want to venture into this.
Yeah, that's the thing about being a nurse. We have so many opportunities and different areas
Yeah,
we can explore. And with the money that we make, because we get, you work 3 days a week, you still get 4 days off. We have more than half of the week
time.
to explore
Hmm.
other opportunities.
That's the good thing about being a nurse. To be honest, I thought about going back to medical school, but you can't trade your time. Actually,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, it wasn't worth it for me.
Speaking of which, I have this I'm not going to say all of the details yet, but there is a possibility that I always mention something new on the channel, but there's a possibility that I might not even work as a nurse in the next year or so because of something that's come up. So, and part of it has to do because of my experience as a nurse that I'm able to go now into an area that it has no patient care like part of it at all. Like I'm not going to be providing patient care. It's not even going to be in nursing at all, but because of my experience as a nurse, I might be able to go into another area. You know,
Wow.
yeah, and I'll talk about that later if it actually does come to fruition. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll see.
We're excited for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so if people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
My YouTube channel is Success with Masiri, just my full name
Cool,
on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, also Success. If you type Success with Masiri, you'll find me. And then
cool,
LinkedIn, Success with Masiri as well.
awesome. And is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we end the call?
I'd say don't stop researching. If you're international, if you're a nurse here, new grad, don't stop learning and don't stop, thinking about the next big thing. Like, don't get too comfortable where you are. It's good to enjoy the moment, learn, take in as much as you could take in. But if you are too complacent, the world is just going to keep going. So just keep researching, keep reading, be open minded to learn, and the sky will be your starting point. I
Awesome.
cannot compare where I was 3 years ago to where I am right now, but financially, knowledge wise, skills, and so many things. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
If you enjoyed this episode, then you're probably also going to enjoy the episode of the nurse who went from a dialysis tech to LPN to RN to BSN and MSN in less than 3 years and for under $4,000 in overall cost.